Welcome, villagers, to the village hidden in the stories. I'm your guide, KAGE, the creator and author of all the what-if stories you see on this channel, with your awesome suggestions, of course. I write, edit, and produce every story you hear, so if you're wondering who made it, it's me. I hope you enjoy today's video. Be sure to leave your what-if ideas in the comments and subscribe if you're new. Today's story is What If Naruto Was in Miraculous Ladybug Part 1 Season 2. I know a lot of you have been waiting for this and I hope you all love what I have done with the series. I've tried to add more lore into the FIC, as well as answer some questions in Part 1 and 2, so I hope you will like it. Before we dive in, shout-out time. Thanks so much to everyone who comments, keep them coming. And our second shout-outs for my Shinobi Patreon members, Omar, Francios Lyman, Alpha Wolf 1993, and Dominic, a special thank you and welcome to those four. If you'd like to support the channel, check out my Patreon, link in the description. For just $5, you can get early access to full-text transcripts, thumbnails, ad-free videos, and updates for my what-ifs. Now, without further ado, let's jump into this what-if. Part 1 Season 2, Shadows Return. Moonlight draped softly over the open plain, its gentle glow just strong enough to reveal the contours of the land. The leaves rustled in harmony with the swaying grass and the quiet hum of insects. The scene felt almost enchanted, hypnotic, serene, as if the world itself were urging one to linger in this moment. The cold wind didn't bite, but rather wrapped around everything like a quiet embrace. That same breeze reached up toward a nearby hill, where three figures stood. One was small, fox-like, with 10 swaying tails that shimmered faintly beneath the moon. Beside the creature sat two figures of similar height, both blonde, both blue-eyed. But the boy's hair burned a bit brighter in the night. Tan skin, whisker-like marks on his cheeks, and the distinct silhouette of the fire shadow suit defined him at a glance. The girl beside him was paler, dressed in a sleek, black shinobi outfit with a sword strapped across her back. Her expression held a quiet frown as she glanced toward the boy from time to time, something unspoken lingering between them. Naruto lay back in the grass, hands behind his head, a quiet smile on his face as thoughts drifted through his mind like clouds across the sky. Beside him, Yuna glanced his way, her own smile tugging at her lips before her gaze shifted to the fox in front of them. "It's finally over," she said softly, her voice carried a peaceful weight, like each word peeled back a memory. "The Akatsuki are gone, not without loss," her smile faltered for a moment, eyes distant. "But what Japan has now, what the secret shinobi world has now, it was worth it." Naruto turned slightly to look at her, his smile widening. "Still can't believe you carried me on our first mission." Yuna let out a laugh. "You don't weigh nearly as much as your ego." He rolled his eyes, chuckling as he turned back to the stars. "We really did help a lot of people. Even if you were kind of a jerk at first." Yuna reminded me of another blonde I know. She frowned playfully, turning her back to him with a small pout. "I wasn't rude, I was focused, you were the one goofing off." "Definitely," Naruto agreed, grin still in place. He sat up, glancing at the sky for a moment longer before speaking again, his voice now tinged with that same reflective note Yuna had earlier. "Did you ask why the others couldn't make it?" Yuna shrugged, a small chuckle escaping. "I did. They said something about clan business, loose ends to tie up." The lie passed easily. Naruto didn't press, simply turning to Kurama. "Guess that's fine, not like I won't see them again soon. What about you, Furball, ready to go home?" Kurama didn't speak, he just laid his head down, wearing a sharp-toothed smirk. Naruto shook his head with a grin. "Standing and stretching, while I'd love to stick around and help with your attitude issues, I really don't feel like dealing with the clan right now." He turned toward her. "Think you can handle things from here, without the great and fearless me?" Yuna stood, arms crossed, smirking. "You might be stronger, but I don't need a babysitter." That made Naruto laugh. It echoed through the quiet field, warm and genuine, the same laugh he gave the day they met, back when she was colder, harder. That edge was gone now, but the memory still clung to the corners of his thoughts. Well, if that's the case, he knelt and gently scooped up Kurama. The fox gave a low rumble of amusement before vanishing in a flash of chakra. Yuna watched, her smirk softening into a smile. "Tell your new family I said hi," she added quietly. Naruto slung his bag over his shoulder, giving her a lazy salute. "I will, try not to miss me too much." And with that, he turned toward the horizon, the wind picking up around him like it was eager to carry him forward. Yuna stood there, staring at the spot where Naruto had just disappeared down the path. The wind had settled now, calm and still, like it too was watching him go. She let out a slow breath, her hand brushing lightly against the hilt of her sword, fingertips tightening just for a second. "Idiot," she murmured, half smiling to herself. "Didn't even say goodbye properly." There was no anger in her voice, just a warmth that settled in her chest, the kind that only came from knowing someone who left a mark. She looked out over the plain below, the same one they had crossed together weeks ago. It all felt smaller now, or maybe she'd just grown. The wind kicked up again, brushing past her as if nudging her gently along. She turned and walked down the opposite side of the hill, her path separate, but steady. A fist slammed into the side of a pigeon-themed villain, the force of the blow knocking the wind out of him and sending him flying across the plaza. The fist was wrapped in a sleek red silk, patterned with black polka dots. The design traced up the arm and across the entire bodysuit, shimmering faintly with a magical gleam before settling. As the energy of the punch faded, the figure straightened. Her stance shifted, confident now, almost playful, though still poised for another strike. Dark blue hair was pulled into twin pigtails, her expression hidden behind a red and black mask that matched her suit. She was Marinette de Paincheng, but right now, she was Ladybug. Moments later, her partner dropped down beside her. A flash of black and green. He struck a relaxed, cocky pose, but like her, remained alert. He had tousled blonde hair, a sleek black mask, and a gleaming silver staff resting at his side. Cat Noir had arrived. The midday sun bathed the Eiffel Tower in golden light, casting long shadows across the open plaza below. The chaos of the earlier battle was still fresh, overturned cafe tables, scattered feathers from the villain's power, and panicked tourists who had long since fled the scene. A breeze carried the sounds of distant sirens and flapping wings, the air tense with unfinished conflict. Ladybug scanned the battlefield, her eyes narrowing. The villain, a man transformed into a pigeon hybrid with razor-sharp wings and storm-like speed, was already regaining altitude, his shadow sweeping across the cobblestones below. They didn't have much time. Okay, Marinette thought, no more stalling. One clean win, and I'm done for the day. She shifted on her heels, glancing briefly at the Eiffel Tower towering behind them. Even with everything she'd faced as Ladybug, it still felt surreal to battle under its steel frame like it was just another afternoon. No plan, but maybe I don't need one, just trust the rhythm. Her gaze flicked to Cat Noir. He was watching her, casually spinning his staff in one hand. The moment their eyes met, she gave him a subtle nod. He grinned, lowered into a ready stance, and without a word, nodded back. They moved at once, a silent agreement, built on instincts, trust, and a bond that had grown sharper with every fight. Ladybug sprinted left, angling around a fallen street lamp for cover. Cat Noir darted to the right, vaulting off a bench to intercept the villain mid-flight. The trap was already in motion, not rehearsed, not spoken, just two partners winging it, together. And for now, that was enough. Cat Noir was the first to strike. With a powerful leap, he launched himself into the air, his staff extended like a spear aimed straight at the pigeon-themed villain. The villain flapped hard, dodging the first swipe, but barely avoided the second as Cat twisted midair, turning the follow-up into a spinning kick. "Whoa!" the villain shouted, swerving with jerky, panicked movements. His feathers scattered in the air like torn paper, catching the sunlight as he dove low to evade. That's when Ladybug made her move. She darted around the left side of the plaza, keeping her distance just enough to guide his escape path. Every move she made narrowed the villain's options. From rooftops to alleyways, she was cutting off his routes like a chess master moving pieces in real time. "You're not going anywhere," she muttered under her breath. The villain landed hard on the ground, wings twitching, eyes darting back and forth. He was trapped now, every escape blocked by one of the two heroes circling like wolves. He ducked another strike from Cat Noir, then spun to try and catch Ladybug with a gust from his wings. But they were ready. Always one step ahead. And through it all, they never stopped smiling. Not the cocky grin on Cat's face as he twirled his staff for the next move. Not the focused, confident smirk Ladybug wore as she pivoted with perfect timing, closing in inch by inch. To an outsider, it may have looked like a fight. But to them, it was a dance. The villain turned too fast, one desperate leap sent him straight into the trap. Ladybug's yo-yo whipped out like a flash of red lightning, wrapping tightly around his legs. In the same beat, Cat Noir struck from behind, knocking the last of the villain's momentum away with a firm push of his staff. The villain hit the ground with a loud thud, feathers flying, groaning as his powers began to flicker and fade. Ladybug and Cat landed on either side of him, perfectly in sync. "Checkmate," Cat said with a wink. Ladybug sighed, half smiling as she twirled her yo-yo back into her belt. "That went smoother than I expected." She glanced up at the Eiffel Tower again, the moment felt almost peaceful now. Ladybug stepped forward, kneeling beside the groaning villain and reaching for the silver whistle still clutched in his gloved hand. She turned it over thoughtfully. Every time, she mused, her eyes narrowing. Mr. Ramier had been akumatized more than once. And each time, this whistle, this same whistle, was part of it. Whether it was a memento, a comfort, or just bad luck, it always ended up being Hawk Moth's gateway into his heart. She gripped it tightly, took a breath, then crushed it in her palm. A soft flash of purple light flickered into existence, and just like she expected, the dark butterfly emerged, fluttering weakly. "Got you," she whispered, already drawing her yo-yo. With a swift flick, she spun the device and trapped the Akuma in a brilliant red glow, cleansing it as it transformed back into a pure white butterfly. "Bye-bye, little butterfly." She released it with a gentle smile, then turned her gaze back to Mr. Ramier, who was already stirring, his villain form melting away into that of a confused, tired older man in a rumpled suit. Relieved to see he was okay, Ladybug stood, brushing herself off. Cat Noir landed beside her with a flourish, staff spinning. "Well, that wasn't too foul, was it?" he said, beaming with pride at his pun. Ladybug rolled her eyes. "Really, bird puns again?" "What can I say, you bring out the best in me," he said with a dramatic bow. She crossed her arms, a small smile come to her face. "Let's just focus on making sure everyone's safe and that Mr. Ramier gets home without attracting any more Akumas. Of course, I could escort you home too," he added with a hopeful smirk. Ladybug gave him a deadpan look. "I can manage." "Someday," he sighed with exaggerated heartbreak. "You'll fall for this charm." Ladybug turned away, already activating her yo-yo. "Not today, kitty." With a whip and a click, the yo-yo latched onto a nearby lamppost, and Ladybug soared into the sky, leaving Cat Noir behind with a short wave and the soft glimmer of afternoon sun catching her silhouette. And after a few swings, Ladybug landed lightly in a quiet alleyway, breath steady, movements fluid. The moment her feet touched the ground, her suit shimmered, red silk fading into fabric, the mask vanishing, her features softening. Marinette stood there for a moment, still. The day had been long, but not exhausting. She looked up, a soft breeze brushing against her cheeks, brushing back a strand of dark blue hair. "Life's been a lot lately, saving the city. Balancing friends, carrying a secret identity that no one else could really understand. But it had its perks, she honestly wouldn't trade it for anything else in the world." Her thoughts drifted, reflective, unsure. The past few weeks had been a blur. School, patrols, friend drama, a few intense Akuma attacks, she hadn't had much time to breathe, let alone think. But now, in the quiet moment after the storm, her mind wandered freely, and landed on him. She didn't even notice the quiet movement making its way upward, as a small, red figure floated up in front of her, smiling patiently. "You're thinking too hard again," Tikki said softly, hovering just in front of Marinette's face. Marinette blinked and let out a short laugh, recognizing her friend in an instant, maybe a little. "You've been working hard, you should give yourself a break." "I will," Marinette promised, brushing her bangs from her face. "Just, everything feels a little heavier lately, like something's coming, and I don't know what yet." Before Tikki could respond, a small buzz reached both their ears. It was Marinette's phone, vibrating in her pocket, just loud enough to hear. She pulled it out lazily, expecting a message from Alya or maybe a notification about the weather, but the second she saw the screen, her entire expression shifted. "Naruto returns today, 3:30 p.m., Paris Airport. Don't panic." Her breath caught in her throat. "Oh no," her eyes widened, "oh no 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 no, Tikki." Tikki tilted her head, "You okay?" "I completely forgot he was coming back today," Marinette exclaimed, shoving her phone back into her pocket. "How could I forget something like that?" Tikki tried to reassure her, "You've had a lot going on, I know, but still, it's Naruto, I can't just show up looking like," she gestured vaguely at her slightly ruffled hair, her faint under-eye circles, the tiny stain on her hoodie from breakfast. "Like this." Tikki stifled a giggle, "You look fine." "No, I need to look ready, I need to be ready, what if doesn't answer today? Or worse, what if he does?" "You've had months to figure this out," Tikki teased gently. "And I've done so great with all that time," Marinette muttered, already moving toward the street at a fast pace. "Okay, go home, change, meet up with Alya, don't trip, don't panic, don't explode." "You're definitely panicking," Tikki said as she tucked herself back into Marinette's bag. "I know," Marinette replied, already breaking into a run, her heart pounding. "But I think I missed him more than I let myself admit." And just like that, she disappeared into the streets of Paris, frantic, flustered, but maybe, just maybe, hopeful. Marinette sprinted through the streets of Paris, dodging pedestrians with practiced ease. Her heart beat faster with every step, not from exertion, but from something far more electric. Her dark blue hair, usually tied neatly into twin pigtails, was fraying at the edges with wind and movement, her cheeks slightly flushed. She clutched her phone tight in one hand, her thumb still resting over the notification that had made her world tilt. Naruto's flight arrives today. She hadn't forgotten, not really, but seeing it written out in cold text made it real. She burst through the bakery doors, gave a quick, breathless greeting to her parents, and bolted upstairs. The door to her room slammed shut behind her as she all but collapsed onto her bed, groaning into her pillow. "You're overeating," came Tikki's soft, cheerful voice. Marinette rolled onto her side to see her Kwami, floating in front of her, softly smiling without a concern. I know, Marinette muttered. "But..." Tikki tilted her head, "But what? He was gone, but now he's back, shouldn't you be happy?" Marinette sat up slowly, brushing her bangs out of her face. "Yeah, he's been gone for so long, months, and not just gone, he left to fight an enemy no one else even knew about." Her voice was trembling, not with fear, but with intensity, a swirl of anxiety and something else beneath it. "And I left him with," she hesitated, her face warming. "That kiss." Tikki hovered closer. Her expression gentle, "You were honest with your feelings, that's not something to be ashamed of." "But what if he's changed, or worse, what if I have?" Marinette murmured, staring at her hands. Tikki floated down and rested on the desk near her. "You both went through something hard, of course you've changed a little, but real bonds don't break that easily." And I've seen the way Naruto talks about you, Marinette. Marinette glanced up quickly, eyes wide. He talks about me? Tikki gave her a knowing smile. Before he left, I'm sure he missed you just as much as you missed him. There was a brief silence before Marinette's expression darkened with concern again. But, what if the mission changed him more than I realize? I mean, Tikki, one whatchamacallit member nearly tore this whole city apart. If Naruto hadn't gained that last-minute power boost, the Akatsuki, Tikki corrected softly. Right, them, she clenched her fists. What if he saw things, did things, that I don't understand? What if he doesn't smile like he used to, or look at me the same way? Tikki floated up again and pressed her tiny paw to Marinette's hand. Then you'll remind him of who he is, and if he has changed, maybe he's stronger for it, maybe you both are. Marinette took a deep breath. Her eyes were glassy, but she wasn't crying. I want to believe everything's going to be okay. That will pick up where we left off. That he'll still feel something. You can still change too, Tikki said gently. You're allowed to be uncertain, you're allowed to be scared. But no matter how things go, you'll be okay, you're Ladybug, and more than that, you're Marinette. That made her smile, a small one, but real. Marinette let herself fall back onto the bed and stared up at the ceiling. Her thoughts wandered, brief flashes of Naruto's grin, his dumb jokes, the warmth in his voice when he said her name. The feel of his lips when they kissed, rushed and reckless before he vanished again. Would he still feel the same, would she? She turned over and sat up, brushing away her nerves. Okay, I need to get ready. Tikki just smiled at that, and within a few moments the Kwami gave her a makeover. The golden light of late afternoon washed over the streets of Paris as Marinette de Painting stepped outside with her parents, her nerves wound tight beneath her carefully chosen outfit. Her new look was subtle but intentional. Her dark blue hair, usually tied into practical pigtails, was now styled into soft, looser twin tails with gentle curls at the ends. Her bangs had been lightly trimmed to better frame her face, and a dusting of blush brought warmth to her cheeks. She wore a cropped pink jacket over a delicate white blouse, tucked neatly into black high-waisted pants, with a pair of clean white sneakers that made her feel light on her feet. A soft pink gloss shimmered on her lips, not too much, just enough. She hugged her arms lightly as she walked beside her parents, her heart thudding with anxious anticipation. Only her parents' voice took her out of her trance, knowing looks from both of them catching her eyes. We'll meet you at the airport, sweetheart, her father said kindly as they reached the corner, gesturing to the other side of the road, where her friend Alya was. Marinette almost hadn't noticed her, she was glad her parents did. Go on, her mother added with a warm smile. Thanks, Marinette said, flashing a grateful smile before turning and making her way across the plaza where Alya stood waiting. The second Alya caught sight of her, her eyebrows shot up. Whoa-ho-ho, girl, okay, who is she? Marinette laughed, nervous and unsure. You think it's too much? Alya circled her playfully, then nudged her shoulder. Too much? No way, you look amazing, like, magazine cover amazing. A pause, then Marinette glanced away, fidgeting with her sleeve. Do you think he'll notice? Alya didn't miss a beat, grinning wide. Oh, our ninja, he'll definitely notice. Marinette blinked, what, not knowing how to react. Did she figure it out? Before she could voice that question, Alya spoke up. You know, Alya said, waving it off casually. Naruto always had that whole quiet, sneaky vibe. He's sweet, kind and helpful, but let's be real, he disappears like a ninja, shows up with perfect timing. And somehow knows things no normal person should. I don't care how normal he tries to act, I see the patterns. Marinette's heart did a small backflip, but she still managed to force a laugh. Yeah, totally, but he's definitely not a ninja or anything. Alya tilted her head. You okay? You look like you just ran face first into a wall, and like usual. I'm fine, totally fine, Marinette smiled way too wide. waving her hands. Just excited, you know? Long time, lots of feelings, probably overthinking everything. Well, take it from your best friend, Alya cut in, placing a hand on her hip. You've got nothing to worry about, you look great, and if Naruto doesn't notice, I'm legally obligated to scream at him. Marinette giggled and shook her head, a little calmer now, thanks Alya. The two walked off together toward the airport, their conversation trailing into laughs and nervous chatter about reunions, returns, and maybe, just maybe, a fresh start. As the girls strolled toward the metro that would take them to the airport, their steps slowed a bit, and Alya glanced over with a smirk. So, what's the plan? Marinette blinked, pulling slightly out of her thoughts. Plan? Alya gave her a sideways look. You know, the plan. Marinette tilted her head, puzzled. You're going to have to be a little more specific. Alya sighed dramatically, waving her arms. Girl, Naruto is coming back, after months away, and the last thing you did before he left was kiss him and drop the biggest question of your entire teenage existence on his shoulders. Marinette's eyes widened as her thoughts stuttered to life. Right, that. She started, her voice trailing off. So, Alya continued, stepping in front of her to make her stop walking. What's the plan to get a yes? Marinette froze mid-step, her mouth halfway open. She didn't have an answer, not really. She hadn't let herself think that far ahead, not clearly, anyway. I mean, Alya went on, softer now, he left with a kiss and a question, and whatever family business he had in Japan. That kind of thing changes a person. Her words stuck in Marinette's chest. The thought had always been there, buried beneath her distractions and excuses. The same worries she had voiced to Tikki, all coming back in the matter of seconds. Alya placed a hand on Marinette's arm. You only have a few days before he settles back in. His answer, it might not be the same anymore, it might not be what you expected when you asked him. Marinette's chest tightened, her thoughts rushed in, uninvited and relentless. What if he says no? What if he already decided back then, and the kiss was just goodbye? Her fingers curled around the strap of her bag, her grip tense. Alya's voice cut through again. Softer but still sure. Hey, I'm not saying this to scare you, I'm saying this because you deserve to be ready. Marinette nodded slowly, not trusting herself to speak just yet. But the doubt had already begun to curl around the edges of her chest. Marinette exhaled slowly, still processing everything Alya had said. Her thoughts were a swirl of nerves and tangled what-ifs. Alya nudged her shoulder gently. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. Marinette blinked. We? Yes, we. You're not doing this alone. Now listen, Naruto's coming back today, but he's probably gonna be super jet-lagged and overwhelmed. We give him space today, just let the reunion breathe a bit. Alya grinned, eyes gleaming with excitement. Then tomorrow, we throw a party. Marinette blinked again. A party? Yeah, Alya beamed. Something casual, but with everyone he missed, food, music, friends, all of it. Make him feel like he's really home again. Marinette nodded slowly. Okay, that doesn't sound so bad. And during the party, Alya continued, voice dipping into a conspiratorial tone, you and him sneak away for a bit, just the two of you. Marinette's eyes widened slightly, heart skipping. What for? You talk, Alya said simply. About everything, about what's changed, what hasn't, what he saw, what you felt. Then, you ask again. Direct, but not too heavy. You deserve an answer, Mari. Marinette chewed her lip for a moment. Part of her agreed, this was a real plan, it gave them both time, space, and a setting that felt natural. But another part of her hesitated. I don't know, doesn't it feel a little too much? Like we're forcing something? Alya threw her arm around Marinette's shoulders with a grin. Mari, this is Naruto we're talking about. He's not gonna think that. He'd do the exact same thing if it were you gone and him waiting. Marinette smiled softly at that, remembering the boy's sunny grin, his awkward yet charming pep talks, the quiet way he'd sit with her during hard days. always ready to listen. Maybe this could work. As her thoughts quieted, the two stepped through the wide glass doors of Charles de Gaulle Airport, the bustle of travelers and the low rumble of rolling suitcases surrounding them. Marinette's pulse picked up, nerves and excitement tumbling together. Alya leaned in with a teasing smile, "Let's go meet our ninja." That made Marinette laugh, her nerves dissolving in that instant. Just like that, the tight knot in her chest loosened, and the two girls made their way toward the terminal where everyone was waiting for Naruto. And by everyone, Marinette meant everyone. Beyond the buzz of the airport crowd stood their entire class, gathered in loose groups, catting, shifting restlessly, clearly just as excited. Nino and Adrien stood off to one side, laughing about something. Kim was bouncing on the balls of his feet, full of energy. Even Chloe had shown up, arms crossed and impatience radiating off her like a perfume cloud. Marinette's parents stood close by, keeping a soft eye on the group. After all, they were the ones welcoming Naruto back into their home, again. Marinette would have to ask her parents just how connected their family was to his. Sure, she knew now that the Uzumakis and the Dupingchangs were longtime friends, practically tied together across generations and continents, always ready to support each other. But with what Naruto had told her, about his family's role in restoring chakra to the world, she couldn't help but wonder. Was her family involved in that too? Was there more to this connection than just old stories and shared dinners? The thought buzzed in the back of her mind, quietly humming beneath the louder questions. Questions about Naruto. About what had changed, about whether that kiss still meant what it did the day she gave it. And in just a few minutes, she might get an answer. Marinette let out a breath as she and Alya stepped into the circle of their classmates. Friendly voices rose around her almost immediately. "Marinette," Alex called with a grin, "you still making secret projects in your sketchbook?" "Hey girl," Rose chimed, pulling her into a quick hug. "You look so cute today." Seriously, Julika nodded, crossing her arms but offering a rare smile, "The hair, the outfit, big change." "Someone's glowing," Max observed quietly, pushing up his glasses. Marinette laughed awkwardly, waving her hands like she could bat away the attention. "It's really not that serious, I just felt like a small change, that's all." "You are glowing," Alya whispered with a smirk. "And we both know why." Marinette blushed and quickly changed the subject, moving from group to group, catting briefly, sharing small smiles and greetings, but her eyes kept wandering to the arrival gate. Then, she spotted her. Standing off to the side in heels too clean for an airport and arms crossed tightly over her chest right next to Sabrina. Chloe Bourgeois wore a look like she'd just bitten into a lemon. But she was here. Marinette blinked and walked over, curiosity outweighing her usual irritation. "I didn't expect you to come," she said, careful to keep her voice neutral. Chloe rolled her eyes dramatically. "Ugh, please, I only came because Adrien asked me to. It's not like I wanted to welcome back some adventuring rugrat personally." Marinette's eye twitched. "Rugrat, really?" Still, she forced a smile. "Well, thanks for coming anyway." Chloe huffed, "Yeah, just making sure he doesn't come back swinging nunchucks through Paris or something ridiculous." Marinette bit her tongue hard enough to taste restraint. Turning away before her mouth said something her brain would regret. That's when Nino's voice broke through the low murmur of the crowd. "Yo, I think I see Goldilocks now." Every head turned, Marinette's included. The terminal ahead was packed, people bunched shoulder to shoulder like sardines, all pressing forward toward the arrival gate. But somewhere in that blur of movement, height, and gold. And her heart started to race, the sea of people seemed to part in slow motion. And then, there he was, Naruto Uzumaki. His smile was exactly the same, bright, genuine, and as impossibly warm as Marinette remembered. That same grin had calmed her nerves during chaos, made her laugh during downtime. And haunted her dreams more than once since he'd left. She should have been ready, she'd had time, she'd made a plan, but in that instant, all of it scattered. He stepped past a few lingering travelers, weaving effortlessly through the crowd like the movement was second nature. His black hoodie, lined with streaks of warm orange, hugged his frame more cleanly than the last time she'd seen it. Sleeker, newer, but still him. It was the same jacket he'd worn during their first Akuma fight together, back when she had no idea he was Fire Shadow. Back when she only saw a reckless, strange transfer student, not the person who would change so much of her world. Now, his hoodie was zipped halfway up over a dark gray shirt, casual and understated. His jeans were black, slightly distressed but fitted, and his shoes looked like they'd seen both Miles and Mayhem, but he still wore that watch. That same old, scratched up, chakra-etched watch, the one with the ceiling art carved beneath the face. The one he used to change, when things got dangerous. The one that marked him not just as Naruto, but as Fire Shadow. Her heart did a weird little flip. As he stepped into the open space where their classmates waited, voices picked up. Nino grinned wide, Adrien moved forward a step. Rose gasped, someone else cheered. But Marinette? She froze. Her words caught in her throat. She'd imagined this moment, maybe even rehearsed it. But now, with him finally here, walking toward her with the sun hitting just right against his golden hair, she couldn't move. Her fingers twitched at her sides, her pulse quickened, he was back. And he hadn't changed nearly as much as she'd feared. Marinette stood still as the others surged forward. Alya nudged her, "You gonna say hi or just stand there holding your breath?" Marinette didn't answer, not at first. Her eyes flicked down for a second, checking her outfit, before her eyes returned to him, her thoughts festering once more. And just like that, as if pulled by her thoughts, a flash of memory played across Marinette's mind. Naruto standing there, almost the same spot he was now. Her hands on his hoodie, eyes shut tight, the kiss, the moment before he left. Her cheeks flushed, and she hadn't noticed as Alya moved to be a part of the group. "Yo," Nino reached Naruto first and pulled him into a half-hug. "Long time, dude, looking sharp." "Right, he actually looks like he uses conditioner," Alya teased, grinning wide as she joined the group. "Came back taller too," Ivan added, punching his shoulder. Naruto laughed, bright and effortless. "Y'all didn't shrink?" The class surrounded him like a warm tide, all laughs and layered chatter. Naruto took it in stride, returning high fives and dodging playful jabs. Marinette hung back for a second longer, hand tightening around her bag strap. Alya leaned closer. "He definitely noticed," she said in a low whisper. That made Marinette laugh, short and surprised. Just like that, the nerves unknotted a little, she stepped forward. Still a little flustered, still not ready, but walking toward him anyway. The noise around them dimmed for a second. Or maybe her brain just forgot how to process anything else. He gave her a small wave, simple, familiar, like he'd only been gone for a few days. She opened her mouth to speak, and failed, her voice cracked. "Hey, hi, her hands flailed uselessly for a moment. She cringed. Naruto's lips quirked, that chuckle, that familiar, knowing one, escaped him like he'd been waiting for her to do that. "Hi," he said back, warm and easy. Marinette blinked, cheeks flushed red, then she moved without thinking and pulled him into a hug. Tight, quick, a little desperate. He returned it without hesitation, arms circling her shoulders like the most natural thing in the world. "Whoa," he teased gently near her ear, "and here I was thinking I was only gone for a month." She laughed into his shoulder, squeezing once before pulling back, brushing her hair from her face. "You know it felt longer than that." He shrugged, but there was something behind his smile now, something quiet. "Yeah," he said, "but I promised I'd come back, didn't I?" She didn't answer right away, she just smiled. Time skip. Naruto settled into Marinette's room with practiced ease, already having arranged his side just the way he liked it. It was still minimalistic, much like the first time he'd stayed, but now carried a few small souvenirs from his journey, just enough to hint at the places he'd been, and the things he wasn't ready to talk about yet. Naruto glanced over his shoulder at Marinette, who had just finished dropping one of his heavier bags onto the floor with a thud. She dusted her hands off, casually closing the attic hatch behind her. "You didn't have to carry that up," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "I wanted to help," Marinette replied, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear as she stepped further into the room. "Besides, might as well get unpacking out of the way, feels like the first time you stayed here again." That made Naruto chuckle softly. Her words brought back a flood of memories. Not just of living here, but of the awkward, shared space, and the chaotic situations that came with it. With a grin, Naruto knelt down beside his bag and carefully pulled out a small scroll, a handful of ink containers, and a finely bristled brush. He laid them out neatly on his desk, his hands moving with quiet familiarity. Marinette tilted her head, watching him from behind with a curious look. "You're setting up a seal?" she asked, stepping closer. "Yup," Naruto said, uncapping one of the inks. "Didn't really know how to do this the last time, thought I'd only be here for a bit, didn't expect Paris to become part of my life." He drew the sealing symbols with smooth, practiced strokes, and after a few precise marks and a brief pulse of chakra, he pressed his palm against the design on the wall. In seconds, it shimmered, then vanished. Marinette raised an eyebrow. "What was that?" Naruto grinned. "Something to make the room situation easier. Technically we'll still share this space, but I made myself a little extension. Should help with certain moments." He didn't say more, but both their minds seemed to flash to the same kind of memory, Marinette walking in one morning when Naruto had just gotten out of the shower. Steam still lingering in the room, or Naruto accidentally stumbling into one of her late-night outfit testing disasters. The red across both of their cheeks said enough. Naruto tapped the wall, and where the seal had disappeared, a wooden door slid into view with a soft thrum. He opened it, revealing a small but cozy room, his room now, with just enough space for a bed, desk, and storage. "Whoa," Marinette said, stepping forward, impressed. "I can make you one too, if you want," Naruto offered. "We'll still use this main room, but it'd give us some private space. Just in case." "I like that," Marinette smiled. "But, do it later, okay, we still have a lot to set up." Naruto nodded, quietly enjoying the comfort of her presence. His eyes wandered the room for a moment before his thoughts began to drift. He was back. After everything, after the battles, the missions, the silence, he was here again. The apartment, Paris, Marinette. He felt his heart swell, his smile growing unconsciously. Then, as if carried on a breeze, Marinette's voice cut through his reflection. "You're actually back," she said, just loud enough to be heard. Naruto turned toward her, caught slightly off guard. Her cheeks turned pink the moment she realized she'd said it aloud, and she looked away. He smiled, feeling his own face warm. "Was it really that bad when I left?" She laughed. Lightly. "It was different. The first Akuma fight without you felt like we were missing something. But Cat Noir and I worked things out, we grew into better teamwork, I think." Naruto took that in, his thoughts dipping briefly into admiration for them both. It made sense. Without him there to support, they would have had to rely on each other more. That was a good thing. "Glad to hear that," he said. "What kind of villains did you guys go up against?" Marinette's face lit with a mix of humor and exasperation. "Oh, you'll love this. Outside of Mr. Pigeon being Mr. Pigeon, Chloe got akumatized." "What?" Naruto blinked, stunned. "Chloe, that Chloe?" She nodded, arms crossed. Turned into some weird mirror version of me, dark red spots, my powers but, improved I guess. She could make whatever she wanted with her lucky charm, a complete nightmare. Naruto let out a low whistle. Man, I leave for a few months and the drama level goes off the charts. Marinette smirked, then her smile softened. Your mission, what was it like? The light in the room dimmed slightly with her question, not physically, but emotionally. The air became quieter, just for a moment, as Naruto's thoughts turned to the weight he had left behind, and the things he had brought back. Naruto leaned back slightly against the edge of the desk, hands resting casually in his pockets. The mission, it was harsh, he said, keeping a light smile on his face, though his eyes told another story, one of weariness and fire and things unspoken. I had help, but it was one of those situations that wasn't going to fix itself. One of those things that needed to be ended before it got worse. Marinette's shoulders sank a little as she looked at him. The weight in his voice wasn't something she was used to. She'd heard him tired, annoyed, even angry in a fight, but this was different, it was quieter, real. You're okay, she asked gently. Naruto gave a small nod, not exactly the same as when I left, but, I'm still Naruto, I'm still me. That made her smile, her expression softened. Her heart steadying a little. Good, because Paris still needs you. They shared that smile for a long second. There was something in the air again, not heavy like before, but warm, familiar, like something real and unfinished all at once. But the moment didn't get much longer. Before anything more could be said between Naruto and Marinette, a swirl of red chakra formed just behind the blonde's shoulder, slow and steady like a ripple through warm water. Kurama emerged, his form flickering with that telltale intensity, his sharp eyes narrowing immediately. Oh, come on, Kurama groaned, floating lazily in the air. You seriously still being all mushy even when I get up, you know I can leave whenever, right? Give a guy some warning next time before you start drowning the place in awkward. Naruto blinked, caught off guard, his cheeks already pink from earlier. I wasn't getting mushy, oh please, Kurama interrupted, deadpan. The whole I'm not the same, but I'm still me line, I felt secondhand cringe. You're lucky she's into you. Marinette blinked rapidly, trying not to laugh, while a small, familiar giggle floated up from behind her shoulder. Tikki had arrived, her wings gently fluttering as she hovered near Marinette's ear, an apologetic smile on her face. Don't mind Kurama, he likes to act grumpy, but just like me he is rooting for you too, probably. Kurama huffed, I root for sanity, and the second-hand embarrassment is killing mine. Naruto smirked. You could have just stayed in your dormant state. I was asleep, Kurama snapped back. Then I woke up to heartfelt memories and your goofy grin. Honestly, how did I get roped into this soap opera? Tikki rolled her eyes fondly. Because deep down, you care. Kurama crossed his arms. No comment. Marinette stifled a laugh behind her hand, while Naruto rubbed the back of his neck. Well, it's nice to have the whole crew back together. Kurama glanced at Marinette, then back at Naruto. Just don't make me watch when things get even sappier, I'm not a babysitter for your emotional breakthroughs. Tikki floated forward, which is exactly why I'll be here instead. Someone has to make sure these two don't combust from awkwardness. The room filled with laughter, some quiet, some loud, but in that moment, the tension fully dissolved. The room didn't just feel like Naruto was back. It felt like home again. The next day at school, Naruto sat alone at one of the metal lunch tables near the back corner of the cafeteria, slowly working through a steaming cup of instant ramen. The scent of miso broth mingled faintly with the aroma of cafeteria food, burnt fries, warm bread, and something vaguely resembling curry. The lunchroom itself buzzed with life. Dozens of students filled the space, their voices rising in scattered waves of chatter and laughter. Trays clattered against tabletops, chairs scraped the floor. And footsteps echoed from all directions, an ever-moving chaos that spilled just past the doors into the hallways. It was noisy, warm, and completely normal. But Naruto, he sat still, taking a slow slurp of noodles, quiet and observant. Just a few months ago, he'd be out during lunch, chasing down Akuma, patrolling rooftops, or occasionally sitting with Adrien and Nino. But today, he wanted to ease himself back in, no rooftop runs, no hidden seals, no sudden heroics. Just school, just ramen, and some time to think. He took another bite, the chopsticks pausing just before his mouth as his thoughts drifted. Yesterday, he'd finally unpacked, settled back into the room he once shared with Marinette. And shared a weirdly comforting reunion with Tikki and Kurama. The moment had been full of small glances, unsaid thoughts, and that quiet question still lingering at the back of his head. Was she more? He knew how he felt, had known for a while now. Marinette had become something more than a friend during his time in Paris. Someone he looked forward to seeing, someone who made him feel like staying. And yeah, he liked her, a lot. Kurama hadn't made things any easier, of course. The fox had taken one look at the picture of Marinette Naruto kept near his scrolls and started teasing him relentlessly, right in front of his crush. And Tikki, she might have been sweet, but she was just as blunt. She said she could see the way he looked at Marinette, said it was obvious. Honestly, it was kind of unfair how two ancient, mythical beings were more in tune with his love life than he was. But the truth was, he still hadn't figured out his answer. What was stopping him? Marinette clearly felt something too. She kissed him before he left, she asked the question, that meant something. So why couldn't he just say it back? He had fought akumatized villains, faced off with the Akatsuki, held his ground against battle-hardened shinobi back in Japan. But tell one girl how he felt, pathetic, he thought, letting out a small sigh. His ancestors were probably rolling over in their graves. Or maybe, they were nodding in solidarity, because when it came to emotions, especially the kind Marinette brought out of him, he didn't have a jutsu or seal to fall back on. And maybe that was the scariest part. Naruto stared down into the last bit of broth in his ramen cup, letting the swirl of voices and footsteps in the lunchroom fade into a background hum. If only sealing techniques could lock away awkward feelings, he might have used one by now. Instead, he was stuck facing them raw. And then, like fate wasn't quite done messing with him, he heard her voice. "Hey, Naruto." The blonde blinked, pulled from his thoughts by the soft, edged voice of the girl who, whether she knew it or not, still held his affections. He turned toward her slowly, and in the 2 seconds it took to meet her gaze, he could already tell something was wrong. Her expression was stormy, annoyed, confused, maybe both, and he silently hoped it wasn't because of him. Her tone was low, quiet in a way that made it feel like it should have been gentle, but there was something under it. A frustration just sharp enough to slice. She didn't even look at him, instead, she slumped down across from him, resting her chin in one palm, her eyes glued to the table like she was trying to burn a hole through it. "You okay?" he asked softly, voice carrying a mix of concern and quiet curiosity. Marinette let out a sigh, sharp enough to push the loose strands of hair out of her eyes. Her expression tightened, her brow furrowed deeper, still, she didn't answer. Naruto didn't press, at least, not right away. She wasn't the type to drop her problems on someone easily. He liked that about her, but the longer she stayed silent, the more it looked like holding it in was only making things worse. He sighed too, more out of empathy than anything else, and gently set his chopsticks aside. "So," he said, giving her a sideways grin, "are you gonna tell me, or am I gonna have to keep playing hardball just to help my friend?" The word was a tease, but a careful one. Still, Marinette's only immediate response was a slight shift in her frown. Then, slowly, almost reluctantly, the corners of her lips lifted, just barely, into something that wasn't quite a smile. Her scowl returned quickly after, though now it was more playful than annoyed. Naruto couldn't help but wonder at the back and forth in her expressions. Something was clearly bothering her, and maybe friend wasn't the right word anymore, not exactly. Not after everything, but they hadn't talked about that part yet. He'd fix that, eventually, before she jumped to conclusions. She had a habit of that, and he was learning to stay ahead of it. Finally, Marinette spoke, her voice still edged with that same bitter annoyance. "There's this new girl at school," she said. "Her name's Lila, reddish-brown hair. Smug smile, voice like a slippery serpent." Naruto raised a brow. "Hux, I think I've heard of her, might have even run into her once before I left for my mission." He leaned back slightly, trying to recall. The memory flickered faintly in his mind. Yeah, he'd met her, one of his first quiet days in Paris, wandering near the museum. There'd been some kind of event, Jagged Stone's charity fundraiser, maybe. She was there, talking a mile a minute to someone. He remembered the way her words had curled around people like vines. He didn't like her then either. So, what about her? Marinette exhaled through her nose, her scowl deepening as she looked away again. She drummed her fingers lightly on the table. Like the words were right there, but she wasn't sure how much to actually say. "She lies," Marinette said finally. "About everything, and everyone just believes her." Naruto blinked. "Lies, like?" "She said she's best friends with Ladybug," Marinette muttered, each word sharper than the last. "That she knows Prince Ali personally, that she toured with Jagged Stone and has some mysterious illness that makes her so fragile everyone has to treat her like glass." Naruto raised a brow again, lips quirking slightly. "That's a lot." "Exactly," Marinette huffed, sitting up straighter. "She just showed up out of nowhere and immediately had everyone wrapped around her finger. And I don't mean just the class. Even the teachers are falling for it." She looked at him then, eyes fierce, voice low but intense. "And the worst part," she said, "Ladybug saved her life, more than once. That they're close friends, which is weird, because I would remember something like that." Naruto stared at her for a second, piecing it all together. "You're mad because she's making stuff up about Ladybug?" "Yes, no, I mean," Marinette faltered for a second, catching herself before she said too much. "It's not just that, it's how easily everyone's buying it, and I know it sounds like I'm just being jealous or paranoid, but I know something's not right. She's manipulating everyone and no one even notices." Naruto leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table, watching her carefully. "And you want me to do what, exactly?" Marinette hesitated, her eyes dropped to the table, then back to him. "I want to watch her," she said finally. "Follow her, see what she's doing. I know it sounds ridiculous, but something isn't right. There's something off about her, and if no one else is going to look into it, then I will." Naruto was quiet for a moment. He glanced at his half-eaten cup of ramen, then back at the determination in Marinette's eyes. "Spying, huh," he muttered, scratching the back of his head. "Didn't think I'd be doing that again so soon after getting back." Marinette blinked, almost startled by the hint of a yes in his voice. "So, you'll come with me?" He gave her a flat look, then smirked. "You know I can't say no when you look at me like that." "I wasn't looking at you any particular way." "Exactly," he teased, standing and grabbing his cup. "That's the problem." Marinette stood too, lips pressing into a firm line to hide the smile that wanted to sneak out. "So where is she now?" Naruto asked, already sounding resigned to whatever weird mission he'd just signed up for. Marinette's eyes flicked toward the doors leading out of the lunchroom. "With Adrien, come on," if we move now, we might catch them before they head out. Figures, Naruto mumbled. Sighing. First day back, and I'm already tailing someone again. Kurama's gonna have a field day with this. He followed her out anyway. Because if there was one thing more confusing than his feelings for Marinette, it was the strange magnetic pull he always felt when she needed him. The two made their way toward the library, weaving through the halls in a rush, to Naruto's growing dismay. He was pretty sure he'd bumped into the wall at least 7 times, thanks to Marinette practically dragging him by the wrist. She muttered sorry each time, but that didn't stop his head from ringing like a tuning fork. Now crouched behind a tall bookshelf, they settled just out of view from Adrien's seat, close enough to see and hear everything. The silence in the library was unnerving, you could hear a pin drop. And while that might have been peaceful to some, it was clearly testing one girl's patience. "Where is she?" Marinette muttered under her breath, her tone sharp and simmering. She shifted for a better view, careful but clearly irritated. Naruto mirrored her movement, following her lead as quietly as possible. "How do I always get myself into these situations?" he sighed inwardly, already bracing for whatever came next. Adrien still sat alone, glancing toward the library doors as though expecting someone. A small sigh slipped past his lips, and he leaned back in his chair, clearly growing impatient or maybe just bored. Then, as if to fill the silence, he reached into his bag and pulled out a strange-looking book. Naruto squinted at it from behind the shelf, furrowing his brow. It wasn't like any school textbook he'd seen. The cover was aged, almost leathery, with faded gold trim along the spine and strange symbols etched across the surface. A red wax-like seal, cracked in places, sat just beneath the title, which Naruto couldn't quite make out from here. Weird-looking thing, Naruto thought. Old, too, like, old. Not school library kind of old, and it has this feeling. He didn't know how else to describe it. It wasn't just suspicious, it was familiar, but in a way that made the hairs on his neck stand up. Like chakra, but wrong. Before Naruto could think on it more, that book, a small voice chirped loudly beside them. Tikki shot upward, suddenly very much not hidden anymore. "I recognize that book, I have to see it closer." Naruto flinched. "Tikki," Marinette hissed under her breath, trying to snatch her Kwami midair. "Get back here." But the tiny red creature zipped out of reach, buzzing up toward the far end of Adrien's table. Naruto blinked, then looked to Marinette, who gave him a helpless do something kind of glare. He lifted his hand slightly, as if to say, "What am I supposed to do, lasso her with ramen?" Before either of them could come up with a plan, the library doors creaked open. Lila. She strutted in with her usual syrupy smile, her tone already laced with fake charm. "Thanks for helping me study, Adrien. Doing it alone would have been so boring." From behind the shelves, Marinette rolled her eyes hard enough it was almost audible. Naruto stifled a snort with the back of his hand. Adrien smiled politely, but his eyes flicked quickly to the strange book in front of him. In a clumsy motion, he tried to shove it under a smaller notebook, but it barely covered half the cover. Lila, of course, noticed. "What's that?" she asked, brushing his hand aside as if she owned the table. Adrien hesitated. "Oh, it's just a book about superheroes," he said quickly. Naruto's eyes narrowed. He could count 3 tells in Adrien's voice and body language. Yeah, he was definitely lying, not maliciously, but still a poor attempt. "Oh, really?" Lila asked sweetly, already flipping through the pages before Adrien could even finish his sentence. Together, they leaned over the book, eyes scanning strange pages filled with sketched figures. Some wore armor. Others had symbols that looked like Miraculous, but older, and then, there it was, an old illustration, slightly faded, but clearly her Ladybug. Marinette's breath caught quietly. Naruto glanced at her from the corner of his eye, but neither of them moved. Adrien seemed a little dazed. Clearly pulled into the image, Lila, of course, noticed. "You've got a thing for her, don't you?" she asked, her tone light but fishing. Adrien smiled faintly. "She's amazing." Naruto caught it, the slight twitch in Lila's brow. Jealousy, hidden behind the facade, she covered it with a laugh, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "A girl doesn't need a costume to be amazing," she said, leaning closer to him. Adrien blinked, surprised by the shift in tone. Then, Lila struck, "Actually, I'm really close with Ladybug, we've talked a lot, there might be other things I could tell you about her." Adrien's attention snapped back to her instantly. "But not here," she added quickly. Voice low. "Too many people, meet me at the park after school." Adrien nodded without a second thought, "Sure." Naruto's frown deepened, it was like watching a genjutsu take root. Clear manipulation, subtle as a kunai in the ribs. But before he could say or do anything, a beeping noise cut the air. Adrien looked down, his fencing alarm. "Crap, practice," he said, quickly jumping up and gathering his things. In the rush, several books spilled across the table. Lila swooped in, helping him gather them, but Naruto's sharp eyes caught it. She slid the superhero book off to the side with her elbow, keeping it tucked out of Adrien's view. By the time he turned back around, the book was gone, and Lila was already slipping it into her bag. Naruto clenched his jaw and shifted forward, ready to step in. She just stole from him. But a flicker of red zipped past his peripheral. Tikki hovered in front of him, silently shaking her head, "Not yet." Reluctantly, Naruto leaned back. Adrien waved goodbye to Lila and jogged off. Lila followed shortly after, book in hand, her smile smug and victorious. Naruto exhaled through his nose. "She's good," he muttered under his breath. "But not good enough." As Lila slipped out of the library with Adrien's book tucked under her arm, Naruto finally turned away from the corner of the shelf, eyebrows furrowed and hands in his pockets. Tikki floated beside him now, her glow dimmed to avoid drawing attention. "Okay," Naruto muttered, crossing his arms. "You've gotta explain, why'd you stop me back there? That was clearly stealing." Tikki's wings fluttered uneasily, "Because that book is important, too important to risk a scene over right now." Naruto raised an eyebrow, glancing back toward the door Lila had exited through. "Important how? Looked like a history book on superheroes, maybe weird, but not exactly screaming danger." "It's not just history," Tikki said. "That book contains records, deep knowledge about the Miraculous, about us Kwamis. Information on powers that haven't been activated in centuries. Even secrets about Ladybug and Cat Noir's potential. Stuff that shouldn't be out in the world, definitely not in Lila's hands." That caught both teens off guard. Marinette's eyes narrowed as she finally stepped fully out from behind the shelf. "Wait, so why did Adrien have it in the first place?" Naruto echoed her confusion. "Yeah, Adrien doesn't strike me as the hoarder of magical secrets type." Tikki hesitated. "I don't know for sure, but it can't be a coincidence. What matters now is that we get that book." Marinette frowned at that, arms folded as she glanced toward the door. "I thought Adrien was just into modeling, I didn't think he was even interested in this stuff." Naruto stayed quiet for a second, glancing away. He knew a lot more than he could say, but now wasn't the time to unpack Adrien's double life. Especially not here, not now. "Okay," he sighed, brushing a hand through his hair, then flashed a grin. "We'll get the book back, and once we have it, we can figure out what to do with it, and what we're going to do about her." "You mean Lila?" Marinette asked. Naruto nodded, the smile fading from his lips. I don't like how she's got Adrien wrapped around her finger. Something's off about her, beyond the lying, she's too good at it, and if she's got that book, we can't just let this slide." With that, the two set off, trailing Lila from a careful distance. Their path eventually led them to the park, the sun high overhead and the midday air warm with a gentle breeze. Nearby, the soft cooing of pigeons filled the quiet moments between their footsteps. With that, the two set off, trailing Lila from a careful distance. Their path eventually led them to the park, the sun high overhead and the midday air warm with a gentle breeze. Nearby, the soft cooing of pigeons filled the quiet moments between their footsteps. Naruto narrowed his eyes slightly as they spotted her. Lila sat casually on a bench, flipping through Adrien's book with one hand while the other toyed with a new accessory dangling around her neck, a necklace adorned with a delicate silver foxtail charm. It looked harmless, even stylish at first glance, but Naruto wasn't convinced. And judging by the way Tikki had gone rigid, neither was she. "That necklace," Marinette muttered under her breath. "It's not a Miraculous, is it?" "No," Tikki said, her tone unusually firm. "It's not, but someone might want people to think it is." Naruto grunted, "Of course." Not long after, Adrien came jogging up to the bench, smiling politely as he greeted Lila. She returned the gesture with a sugary tone, sliding the book out of sight and subtly tossing it into a nearby trash bin. Tikki gasped softly and immediately signaled them forward. The trio moved quickly, ducking behind a hedge just close enough to hear. "You're a little late," Lila said sweetly, brushing invisible lint off Adrien's sleeve. "I was worried you forgot." "Sorry," Adrien replied. Fencing practice ran long. The two exchanged pleasantries, but Naruto's attention was locked on the trash can. Tikki darted toward it before Marinette could stop her, staying low and quiet. Meanwhile, the conversation ahead continued. Adrien took a seat right next to the girl, shifting his bag to the side. "So you do know Ladybug?" "Not only did Ladybug save my life, we become very close friends because we have something very special in common. It's what I wanted to tell you about. I'm the descendant of a vixen superheroine myself." "Vulpina," Lila gave a short nod. "Not only did Ladybug save my life, we become very close friends because we have something very special in common," she said with a practiced casual tone. "It's actually another thing I wanted to tell you about," Lila added. "I'm the descendant of a vixen superheroine myself, Vulpina." Adrien blinked, lightly taking in the name. "Vulpina, I think that name was in the book," he said while reaching for his bag. Lil reached out her hand, stopping Adrien from opening his bag. "Oh, of course it was. She's one of the most important superheroes," Lila said, an overconfident tone reaching her voice. "She is even more powerful and more celebrated than Ladybug. And between you and me, Ladybug doesn't even make the top 10. That got a quick scowl from Marinette. She clutched the foxtail necklace between her fingers, angling it so the light caught it. "This," she added with a sly smile. "It's a family heirloom, given to me by my grandmother. Some say it's even tied to Vulpina's power." Naruto leaned toward Marinette. "She's laying it on thick." "She's been doing it since the minute she got here," Marinette replied through clenched teeth, her hands already curling into fists. Tikki zipped back toward them, clutching the book protectively in her tiny arms. "This is it," she confirmed quietly. "The real deal." But Marinette barely heard her. Her gaze was locked on Lila like a hawk. "Okay Tikki, you have your book, but I'm not allowing another lie to be placed by Lila." "Wait, Mari," Naruto started, but she was already gone. With one determined breath, Marinette rounded the hedge, slipping into a different hiding spot. A low whisper was all it took for Tikki to dart after her, vanishing from Naruto's line of sight. The book she'd been carrying tumbled to the grass with a soft thud, left behind in Naruto's hands. Then, like a gust of wind, Ladybug landed in front of Adrien and Lila, tall, composed, but clearly irritated. The red and black heroine wasted no time peeling apart the tangled web of lies. She'd had enough. "Well, hey, Lila," Ladybug said dryly. "Long time no see. I caught your interview on the Lady blog, awesome job." There was a twitch in Lila's smile. Naruto could see it clearly, even from his hiding spot. The worry in her eyes gave away more than she probably realized. He could step in, part of him wanted to. But that would blow his cover, to Adrien, to Lila, and with the book still in play, he knew better than to risk it. Tikki had said it was important, that was enough for now. The tension grew as the back and forth between the girls escalated. What began as passive politeness was quickly replaced by something far sharper. Ladybug dropped her mask. "But I'm not so sure," she said, her voice gaining edge. "When exactly did I save you, huh? Actually, I don't even think we've met, let alone me rescuing you." Her eyes narrowed. "Me being your friend, knowing you personally, none of that ever happened." She folded her arms. "I don't like it when people twist the truth just to impress others." Then came the final blow. "So, I guess you're not the descendant of a superhero either?" Ladybug didn't miss a beat. "Nope, just a super liar." "How dare you," Lila snapped, clutching her fake necklace like it was a lifeline before bolting from the scene. "Wait, Lila," Adrien called, but she didn't look back. The boy turned to Ladybug, confused, his concern lingering. "Was that really necessary?" he asked gently. "I mean, wasn't that kind of harsh?" Ladybug's expression faltered, just for a second, enough for Naruto to catch. But then it shifted back to the composed, guarded mask she wore so well. "Sorry," she said quietly, "but I can't stand lies, especially when they trap people like puppets." And with that, she threw her yo-yo, snagged it on a nearby rooftop, and vanished in one graceful arc. Naruto stayed crouched, watching. Something else was going on, he could feel it. This wasn't just about Lila or a few petty lies. Whatever it was, it had gotten under Ladybug's skin, and he'd seen it plain as day. His eyes flicked to Adrien, still watching the spot where Ladybug had disappeared. Hopefully, this didn't fracture their dynamic too badly. Paris needed its heroes in sync. Naruto took a breath and looked down at the book still in his hand, the one Tikki had left behind. Then he tapped his watch. A low hum vibrated through the air. Suddenly, a pulse of red light burst outward, swallowing him in a glowing sphere of chakra. From the seal, streamers of black and red cloth shot out, swirling wildly around his body like living ribbons. They snapped through the air with precision, fluid, razor-sharp, long-flowing, and curling in on themselves before wrapping tight around him. Each piece spun into place with purpose, forming each piece of his suit before all the movement began to stop. As the last traces of red light dissolved into the air, Naruto stood still, the chakra seal on his watch fading back into silence. His black shinobi jumpsuit clung cleanly to his frame, sleeveless, built for agility but reinforced for battle by seals, showing off his toned musculature. The fabric shimmered subtly, designed with ninja-based threads woven deep into its lining, nearly invisible unless you knew what to look for. 2 red stripes ran down from either side of his built-in mask and hood, splitting at the shoulders and traveling down his chest and along the sides of his baggy pants, each line pulsing faintly with energy, like dormant veins of chakra. At the center of his chest, the Uzumaki clan symbol had been intricately stitched in crimson, bold and unmistakable. His half-mask was already drawn up over his lower face, a tactical shroud that shadowed his jaw and gave his expression an unreadable edge. And the hood hung down his back, loose and ready to be pulled up at a moment's notice. Draped over his shoulders was the cloak, split down the middle in color and in meaning. The left side was a rich, blood red, etched with mirrored black stripes, the right, pitch black, traced in glowing red. The cloak hung open and sleeveless, granting full range of motion. But it still moved with weight and purpose. The way a hero's cape should. On the back, where the cloak met between the shoulders, lay the mark of balance, a yin-yang symbol, red and black halves reversed and bordered by a ring, each side reflecting the other's color, a perfect harmony of opposing forces. His gloves and boots matched the motif, matte black with deep red accents, durable and tight-fitted, primed for combat or stealth. Naruto's blue eyes were sharp beneath the shadow of his hood, narrowed with renewed purpose. He didn't look like a ninja who had just returned from war. He looked like one who'd come back changed by it, and ready for what came next. With his new suit settled around him, Naruto tightened his grip on the book. Its weight grounding him with purpose. He inhaled once, steadying his breath, then let chakra surge down into his legs. A faint blue glow lit up beneath him, subtle, focused, and full of power. The grass beneath his feet rippled as he launched forward in a burst of motion, vanishing from the spot with a quiet thrum of energy. He darted after Ladybug, cutting through the air with speed and precision, a shadow chasing a spark. He spotted Ladybug up ahead. She was alone, pacing slightly on the edge of the rooftop, pacing like someone trying to walk off thoughts too loud for silence. Her yo-yo spun idly in one hand. She didn't flinch as he landed beside her, boots tapping against the concrete with a muted thud. She stood with one knee slightly bent, her landing poised and confident. A tall girl in a fox-themed suit of orange and brown, the same one who had stopped the meteor. Her mask was sleek, her gloves tipped with clawed metal, and her boots shimmered with a soft kinetic glow. "Sorry for the dramatic entrance," she said with a bright smile, rising fully. Her tone was smooth, confident, almost too smooth. "Cat Noir, Ladybug, big fan." Ladybug blinked, polite but cautious. "Thanks, you've got some impressive timing." "Yeah," Cat added, tilting his head. "And flight, that's new." The girl laughed lightly, "I've got a few tricks." Then her amber eyes landed on Naruto, she blinked. "Wait, no way, fire shadow?" Naruto said nothing at first, his eyes narrowed slightly, but his stance remained casual, his cloak rustling in the soft breeze. "I didn't expect to meet you on my first day," she said, sounding genuinely delighted. "You left some months ago, the hero from the East, it's good to see you back in Paris." Naruto nodded once, "Good to be back." Ladybug crossed her arms, eyes steady on the girl. She wasn't bristling with jealousy, more like examining a puzzle she hadn't finished yet. Her stance was civil, her words warm, but her eyes never left the new girl's face. "And you are?" she asked, evenly. The girl placed one hand on her hip and smiled, "Vulpina." Naruto's eyes narrowed further, Vulpina. He didn't react outwardly, but the name hit a nerve. That was a name he could remember being said, not even 30 minutes ago from Lila. Was she Lila? Maybe everything she said before hadn't been a lie, at least not the part about being a hero. "Well," Vulpina continued, turning suddenly toward the east. "I'm chasing down a lead, something big. I could use your help, but I need to move fast." Before anyone could respond, her form blurred in a flash of orange light, then vanished, just like she had with the meteor. Naruto didn't move, still watching the space she'd just occupied. "Vulpina," he said softly under his breath. Ladybug turned toward him. "You recognize the name too?" Naruto's jaw clenched beneath his mask before nodding. "You think it could be her?" Ladybug gave a slow nod, thoughtful and calm. "I'm not completely sure, but we should keep our guards up just in case." Cat twirled his baton. "I'm with you guys, but if you keep speaking like that I'm not going to know what's going on. I'm sure the new girl is cool, if not, well, we've handled worse." Naruto tapped the edge of his cloak, feeling the fabric on the edge of his finger. Then let's go see what kind of hero Paris just got. With that, the three heroes took off after Vulpina, closing the distance despite her incredible speed. Less than a minute later, they landed beside the new heroine, each of them dropping into a crouch just as she did, their shadows cutting sharp shapes beneath the midday sun. Naruto subtly followed Vulpina's gaze, along with his teammates, spotting exactly why they had all crouched. Hawk Moth, the real Hawk Moth. Standing out in the open, surveying the city from a rooftop that did him no justice. Naruto's first instinct was disbelief. This couldn't be right. He'd been away for a while, sure, but even so, was this normal now? One look at Ladybug and Cat Noir told him everything. Their surprise mirrored his own. This wasn't normal. And worse, it felt easy, too easy. Hawkmoth wasn't even looking at them. He just stood there, like he was waiting. Ladybug turned toward him, her voice low and tight with unease. This can't be right. Hawkmoth never shows up, not in person. Naruto nodded, his gaze narrowing as he watched the still figure of the villain who'd haunted Paris for so long. Something's off, I mean, maybe he's more alert, he might know I'm. But even then, this feels reckless, almost stupid for him. Vulpina straightened to her full height, dismissing his concern with a wave of her hand. You might be right, but we might never get another chance like this. If we're going to act, it'll take all four of us. Cat Noir gave a confident nod, stepping forward with a grin. You can count on us. Naruto and Ladybug stood a beat later. Naruto kept his posture neutral, cool and unreadable. Ladybug crossed her arms, suspicion carefully tucked just beneath the surface. They exchanged a look, just a glance, but it said everything. Something's not right, let's play along, but stay sharp. Ladybug turned back to Vulpina and spoke clearly, with just enough conviction to mask the wariness in her tone. You're right, if this is really our shot to take Hawkmoth as Miraculous, then you should lead. You found him. Vulpina blinked, for a second, maybe two. She was stunned. Then she caught herself, a smile spreading across her face, though her next words carried an edge. Thank you. Ladybug, she said with a strange lilt, something like bitterness buried beneath the surface. I won't disappoint, promise. Ladybug returned the nod without missing a beat. The team crouched once more, tension settling over them like a held breath. In the silence, Vulpina gave the command, Ladybug, go left, Cat Noir, take the right, Fire Shadow, you come from below, she said smoothly. I'll take him from behind. With the plan in place, the four heroes split up, each darting in a different direction to close in on the target and finish this once and for all. Or so they thought. Ladybug moved carefully, dashing along the edge of the rooftop as she flanked Hawkmoth from the right. His back was turned. He didn't move, no Akuma, no traps, no words, just stillness, too easy. Then, suddenly, he vanished in a swirling cloud of black butterflies. In the next blink, he reappeared behind her, a blur of motion. Before she could react, he darted away again. Wait. She called out, leaping into pursuit. She chased him across 3 rooftops. He was fast, just out of reach every time. And then, nothing. He was gone. No movement, no sign. She slowed to a cautious walk, her breathing shallow. Alone, one step forward, and she felt it, click. She looked down, a glowing green halo target now circled her foot, tracking her movement with uncanny precision. It turned red. Panels on the rooftop shifted, missile barrels rose slowly, humming with latent energy. Ladybug froze, then came the laugh, smooth. Mocking, Vulpina dropped down behind her in a swirl of orange, her foxtail scarf billowing in the midday wind. We may not be friends, she said, strolling forward, but after today? You won't be able to say we don't know each other. She smirked. Though I must say, you were much nicer to me when I looked like this. Ladybug's eyes narrowed. Lila. The name left her lips like confirmation. Hers and Naruto's suspicions had been right all along. Marinette bit the inside of her cheek. Maybe she'd been too harsh on Lila. Maybe that's what pushed her into becoming a villain. But she pushed that guilt aside. She could unpack it later. Right now, she had to focus. She started to move, but the target followed her step. The missiles tracked along with it. I wouldn't take another inch, Vulpina warned, her voice now firm and condescending. Wouldn't want to ruin the perfect little image Paris has of its smart hero. Ladybug scowled, rooted in place. I knew something was off. You're not a hero. You're one of Hawkmoth's akumatized victims. That hit a nerve. Vulpina's cocky smirk vanished, replaced by a twisted snarl of frustration. Everyone thinks I'm a superhero. Cat Noir, Fire Shadow, they believe in me. So you don't get to call me a liar anymore. She yelled. Voice cracking with venom, she reached behind her, gripping the flute strapped to her back and swinging it to her side. Whatever she was preparing, Marinette couldn't tell, but she could feel the shift in intent. And when I'm done? Lila shouted, aiming the flute directly at her. Everyone will trust me. And they'll finally see you as the liar. Her stance eased again, fluid, confident. One hand on her hip, the other loosely holding the flute. The smirk returned, cruel and triumphant. But before I get rid of you, she said coolly, you're going to give me your Miraculous. Ladybug's hands flew up instinctively to her earrings as she stepped back. Never, she spat, the glowing target moved with her. The missile barrels tracked her motion precisely, locking on again with a mechanical whine. Do you really think you have a choice? Vulpina taunted. Either you hand over your earrings. Or this whole city starts falling, starting with a few buildings. Ladybug's face went pale for a second, but she held firm. You wouldn't. Vulpina didn't respond with words. She lifted the flute to her lips and blew softly into it. The melody started, high, elegant, eerie. Smooth and enchanting, but with a chilling undercurrent. Orange energy began to gather at the end of the flute, swirling into a tight orb. The longer she played, the more it pulsed and compressed. Then, with a flick of her arms, she launched it toward a nearby building. The orb struck hard, the structure quaked, then tilted. Glass shattered. Chunks of concrete began to fall. Screams erupted as bystanders ran in every direction, fleeing the cascade of debris. It had only been seconds, but it was enough. Stop. Ladybug screamed, her voice cracking. She couldn't watch this happen, couldn't let the city fall while she stood frozen. She reached for her earrings, heart pounding. She couldn't. She shouldn't, but what else could she do? If she moved, she'd trigger the missiles. If she stood still, the city would fall. Either way, she'd lose, maybe. Maybe giving up was the only option, but then, she saw it, a chunk of rubble fell toward a pigeon on the sidewalk. And everything reset, the falling building snapped back to perfect condition. No screams. No chaos. Nothing broken, it was fake. An illusion, she whispered, wide-eyed. Ladybug straightened. Her eyes snapped to Vulpina, realization turning into resolve. That's it. That's your power. Illusions. Lies. That's why Hawkmoth disappeared. That meteor? Fake too. She flung her yo-yo forward, its cord slicing through the missiles, each one dissolving into fading orange light. She wasn't trapped. She never was. You've been lying to everyone, she continued, her voice hardening. That's all your power is. Illusions. Tricks. Ladybug hurled her yo-yo at Vulpina, aiming to end this, but the fox girl burst into a puff of smoke, disappearing just like the rest. Ladybug sighed. Of course. She tapped her yo-yo. The screen flipping open. A few swipes later, she brought up her team comms, Fire Shadow. Cat Noir. Come in. You guys there? The screen flickered, then displayed both of them answering at once. Cat Noir gave a quick salute. Naruto leaned in casually. Yeah, we're here, Naruto said. What's up? The screen on his wrist flickered before stabilizing. Ladybug's face appeared just as both he and Cat Noir leaned into frame. Naruto gave a relaxed nod, his cloak now worn loose and open, sleeves resealed into the fabric with just a light tap. His hood was down, letting the wind ruffle his hair as he crouched beside Cat Noir atop a chimney. Yeah, we're here, he said casually. What's up? Ladybug's voice was tense but focused. Is Vulpina with you? Cat Noir shook his head immediately. No sign of her, or Hawk Moth. We split up, remember, still nothing. Naruto tilted his head slightly, that lined up with the last few minutes. They hadn't sensed anything. But the way Ladybug's eyes narrowed told him she had something bigger. Forget Hawk Moth, she said sharply. He was never real. Naruto blinked, straightening a little. What? It was all an illusion, she clarified. Vulpina's power is illusion creation. She's not a hero, she's one of Hawkmoth's akumatized victims. That made something click. Naruto's brows furrowed as he glanced toward the direction they'd last seen the meteor. That explains why she went after that meteor when I was about to destroy it, he muttered, more to himself. If it was fake, my attack would have gone straight through. She needed to stop me before I proved it wasn't real. Ladybug nodded. Exactly, her illusions are dangerously convincing. And I think I know where she's going next, Adrien Agreste's place. Cat Noir stiffened. Adrien, wait, why would she go there? Ladybug's voice dropped slightly, because it's kind of my fault. I was too harsh with her earlier, right in front of her crush. Cat Noir blinked, then something clicked for him too. Wait, no way, Lila. The cat-themed hero didn't say it loud enough for anyone but his fellow blonde to hear. Thankfully. Meet me at Adrien's place, Ladybug ordered. We'll catch her together before she does anything worse. I'll scout ahead. The screen cut out. Naruto lowered his wrist communicator and turned to Cat Noir, the corner of his mouth tugging up. Well, looks like our villain's got a crush on you. Cat Noir sighed dramatically, stretching his arms behind his head. Wouldn't be the first time, I'm just glad it wasn't Chloe this time. That got a chuckle out of Naruto. Fair enough. He turned to face the direction of Adrien's house, cloak fluttering behind him. Come on, let's stop a liar before she writes her own ending. Cat Noir followed with a smirk. Race you there. Naruto landed lightly on the balcony, barely making a sound as he followed Cat Noir inside. The familiar sleek interior of Adrien's room greeted him, modern, clean, and cold in that designer catalog kind of way. Still, Naruto's eyes lingered on a few things. The framed fencing metal near the desk, the faint outline of a kunai seal on the floor, one he had placed months ago in case Adrien ever needed him fast. The stack of manga in the corner, still gathering dust. He smiled faintly. Some things never change. Claws in. The words came suddenly from behind him. Naruto turned in surprise just in time to watch the green light fade, revealing Adrien in place of Cat Noir. Wait, what? Naruto blinked, walking over. Why'd you detransform? We're literally about to fight a girl who can bend reality with lies. Adrien didn't look concerned. He casually handed a cube of cheese to a black cat-themed Kwami, who he had guessed was Plague. The mythical creature floated out of his shirt, treating the situation like just another Thursday. I just figured if she's into me, you know, Adrien, Then maybe I can talk her down before things go nuclear, Adrien said with a shrug. Plagg stuffed the cheese into his mouth but still managed to talk around it. I'm with Naruto on this one, illusions, emotions, and Akuma don't mix well, especially with hormonal drama on top. He floated up to Naruto, grinning, by the way, hey, even after you revealed your identity to Adrien and Ladybug we never really got to meet. It's nice to finally meet face to face instead of through Adrien about your cool ninja tricks. Did you meet Sugar Cube, and how is the mean old grumpy fox doing? I could sense him the first day you came to Paris. Grumpy fox, Adrien called out confusedly. Naruto grinned and tapped his finger to his temple. He's talking about, well, my Kwami I guess, or animal spirit, or something like that. Adrien raised an eyebrow. You have a Kwami, he questioned. The boy's fellow blonde nodded an answer, before scratching the back of his head. While he says that he is a Kwami most of the time, I don't think he is anything like Plagg or Ladybug's Kwami. He doesn't transform me, and my powers aren't really one-time use. Adrien chuckled at that. I could tell that much. Naruto gave another nod, but he still calls himself a Kwami, but I think he mainly uses it as a title, and he is currently asleep so there would be no point in trying to bring him out. Anyway, started Plagg. He looked at Adrien again, this time more seriously. I get where you're coming from, but think about this, if she's got a crush on you, and she sees Adrien standing there in the middle of all this chaos, what do you really think she's gonna do? Adrien hesitated. Naruto folded his arms. Exactly, she won't just let you walk away. Best case scenario, she tries to impress you, worst case, she grabs you and uses you as leverage, and if that happens, you can't transform, not without giving everything away. Plagg floated next to him, arms crossed. And if you don't transform, you're just a helpless civilian stuck in the middle of a magical illusionist meltdown. I may be powerful, but I can't fight for you. Not to mention, Naruto added, Ladybug's already on her way. Once the fighting starts, you'll need to be Cat Noir anyway. What's the point in wasting time pretending to be someone she can talk to when she's been lying to everyone from the start? Adrien gave a sheepish grin, clearly unmoved. You guys worry too much. He stepped toward the window again, then froze, his eyes narrowed. She's here, he said suddenly, voice low, on a nearby rooftop. Naruto stepped beside him. In the distance, a shimmer of orange danced between buildings. Vulpina, walking slowly, calm, confident, dangerous. Adrien turned to both Naruto and Plagg. Hide. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Seriously? Adrien smirked. Trust me. Plagg sighed. Here we go. Naruto, still skeptical, melted back into the shadows of the room, cloaking his chakra and flicking his cloak shut with a seal shimmer. Plagg zipped into Adrien's dress shirt. Adrien took a calming breath. Then turned to face the window like a scene from a drama, perfectly framed in the fading afternoon light. The orange shimmer danced closer, until with a sudden flicker of foxfire, Vulpina appeared just outside the balcony doors. Adrien took a step back, feigning surprise. What's going on? Who are you? Vulpina gave a soft, almost bashful smile as she stepped forward, illusions swirling faintly around her ankles like fog. Adrien, she breathed, voice touched with false vulnerability. I didn't mean for what happened at the park. It was all a big mix-up. You can see that now, right, that I wasn't lying? She tilted her head slightly, eyes searching his face with a practiced softness. Adrien blinked, keeping his expression innocent. Lila? The way she lit up at the sound of her name made Naruto shift slightly in the shadows, resisting the urge to groan. Vulpina smiled wider, stepping fully into the room now. Yes, it's me. I knew you'd understand eventually. Ladybug, she's always been jealous of how close we are, of how you listen to me. She paced casually, illusions dancing just behind her eyes, as if every word was being rehearsed in real time. She tried to humiliate me this morning in front of you, tried to make me look like a fool, but you saw it, didn't you? You saw how cruel she was. Adrien gave a polite nod, stalling. She might have been a little harsh. That earned a delighted gasp from Vulpina, right before the skylight above shattered and a red blur came crashing down between them. That's enough, Vulpina, Ladybug shouted. Vulpina snarled and leapt backward, illusions immediately whipping around her like a storm. You just can't help yourself, can you? Ladybug struck first, yo-yo spinning in a wide arc to disrupt the illusions. Vulpina twisted midair, firing a barrage of illusory missiles into the far wall. They exploded in flashes of light and sound, making the room vibrate. While chaos erupted in the main space, Adrien dove for the bathroom door. Now, he hissed. Naruto dashed behind him, slamming the door closed just as another fake explosion rocked the house. Inside the bathroom, Adrien leaned on the counter, catching his breath. Naruto crossed his arms. So, still think that was a good plan? Plag hovered above the sink with a smug smirk. Told you so. Adrien held up both hands. Alright, I get it. I didn't even get the chance to say 2 full sentences before Ladybug dove in like a meteor. Naruto rolled his eyes and gave a quick nod. And you were totally about to talk her down with your dazzling personality and model charm, huh? Adrien just chuckled nervously. Claws out, he said. Green light erupted, and just like that, Cat Noir stood ready again. Without another word, they slipped out the window and landed on the outer balcony. Phew, Cat Noir called out. Sorry I'm late. Got a little turned around. Crazy maze of a place. Naruto landed beside him with a short smirk. Someone should have told me not to let the kitty take charge of directions. Vulpina whirled, startled at the new arrivals. Ladybug didn't even pause. She glanced at them once, relief flashing in her eyes. Glad you're both here, she said quickly, bracing for the next round. Let's end this. Naruto cracked his knuckles. With pleasure. Cat Noir twirled his staff. Time to declaw the fox. The 2 heroes jumped back into the room, stances built for a fight as they stood beside Ladybug. The air shimmered with illusions, flickering in and out like a mirage under pressure. A dozen Vulpinas darted across the room, each grinning or snarling in her foxfire haze. Catch me if you can. One of them giggled, before vanishing in a burst of light. Naruto grimaced, flipping backward to avoid a swirl of illusions converging around him. You weren't kidding about the trickery. With a single-hand seal, he inhaled sharply. Wind style, gust blade. A burst of bright blue wind shaped into a blade exploded outward, slicing through several clones and scattering their swirling illusions into harmless wisps. The light in Naruto's chakra shone brilliantly. Even his shuriken trailed sparkling currents of energy as he hurled them. Whoa, Cat Noir muttered, whipping his staff in wide arcs to deflect another copy. Since when did your jutsu glow like that? Yeah, Ladybug chimed in. Launching her yo-yo to try and snag a Vulpina, only for it to pass right through. It's different. Feels lighter, more alive somehow. Naruto caught a kunai mid-spin, eyes narrowing as it phased through yet another illusion. Different doesn't mean useful right now. Can't hit what I can't find. He spun, blasting out a quick water-style jet spray across the room. Even the water shimmered with cerulean energy, making the fake Vulpinas disappear in a puff of orange smoke. Though it splashed some furniture once they were gone, Ladybug tried to follow up, using her yo-yo to latch onto a chimney and swing across the roof. We need to coordinate. Fire Shadow, try the right flank. I got left. Cat Noir leapt forward, slamming his staff down on one Vulpina. It disappeared in a poof of orange, but was quickly replaced by another. Or not, he grumbled. Ladybug landed beside him, tossing her yo-yo in a wide, net-like pattern to clear illusions. Every time we get close, she just makes new clones. You guys are cute when you try, a dozen more Vulpinas echoed, laughter spilling from all directions. But you're not gonna catch me. The trio regrouped, panting. We're not getting anywhere like this, Naruto muttered. Then it's time, Ladybug said, spinning her yo-yo high into the air. Lucky charm. A swirl of pink sparkles rained down, and in a flash of light, a chocolate popsicle appeared in her hands. She blinked at it. Okay? Naruto raised an eyebrow. So, we're fighting an illusionist with ice cream now? Ladybug peeled back the wrapper, her brow furrowed. The inside lining gleamed with a slick, foil-like shimmer. That's when her eyes lit up. I've got it, she turned to Cat Noir. We need a distraction, and fast. Cat Noir grinned. My pleasure, he said, clenching his fist. With a shout of cataclysm, his hand started to generate the black energy his power was known for. With a quick swipe, the black-gloved hand slammed into the bookcase. It exploded in a controlled burst, wooden shelves cracking and books flying like shrapnel. Volumes spilled out in chaotic arcs, crashing into the Vulpina copies, forcing them all to dodge and flicker defensively. Nice, Naruto said. Ladybug opened the popsicle wrapper fully, revealing the silver lining inside. Shine a flame onto this. Naruto instantly understood. Smart, he said, forming rapid seals. Fire style, compressed ember. A tight burst of blue flame burst from his palm, directed toward the foil. The metallic shine amplified it tenfold, casting a concentrated beam of shimmering light across the battlefield. Got you, he shouted. The clones didn't react, only one Vulpina shielded her face. Ladybug's eyes locked in. That's her. She flung her yo-yo with pinpoint precision. It looped around the real Vulpina's wrist just as she began to retreat. With a hard yank, she pulled the girl straight into Cat Noir's waiting arms. He caught her midair and slammed his staff into the ground for extra grip, pinning her in place. Naruto dropped down beside them, cloak flaring behind him, hands glowing faintly. No more games, Vulpina. The girl struggled for a moment, but the illusions were fading fast. Without the foxfire dancing around her, she looked more like Lila Rossi again. Ladybug reached forward and gently touched the fox-themed pendant. With one pull, she took the necklace, then crushed it in her palm. The Akuma fluttered out. The last traces of illusion magic shimmered and vanished from the rooftop as Vulpina's form dissolved, revealing Lila Rossi standing in her place. Her expression was dazed, unfocused, eyes blinking rapidly like she was waking from a strange dream. Above her, the dark butterfly Akuma fluttered in place, trapped within Ladybug's yo-yo. Ladybug raised her hand, voice calm but firm. No more evil doing for you, little Akuma. The yo-yo glowed as it spun rapidly. A swirl of pink energy engulfed the butterfly, and in a flash, it turned pure white and flew off. Free at last, Ladybug tossed the popsicle wrapper into the air. Miraculous Ladybug. A wave of sparkling energy burst out across the room and into the surrounding streets. Broken bricks reassembled, Naruto's scorch marks vanished. And the ruined bookcase inside Adrien's room magically reformed. Even the tossed books returned neatly to their shelves. The three heroes turned inward and extended their fists. Pound it, they said together, fists tapping in a satisfying THMP. It was brief, but for a moment, the tension of the fight melted into the warmth of teamwork. Then they turned to Lila. She stood still for a long moment, slowly glancing at her hands, then at Adrien's room, confused. What? How did I get here? She asked, blinking. What happened? Ladybug stepped forward gently, her voice measured and low. You were akumatized. But it's over now. And I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For earlier today. I didn't mean to hurt you. Lila turned to face her, brow slightly furrowed, still smolders of anger reaching her face. "It's fine," she said simply. "We were never going to be friends anyway." She leaned down and picked up her foxtail necklace, the object that had served as her acclimatization anchor. She turned it in her hand thoughtfully. "Can I get directions out of here?" Cat Noir blinked, caught off guard, but quickly nodded and pointed to the room's door that led to the rest of the mansion. Yeah. Straight through that way. Take the right door once you're inside." Lila didn't say anything else. She walked past all three of them without another word, descending the stairs alone. Ladybug stood frozen in place, her arms slack by her sides. She hadn't expected Lila to hug her. Or forgive her. But that quiet rejection still hurt. Naruto stepped up beside her, his cloak stirring lightly in the wind. "She's wrong, you know," he said gently. Ladybug glanced up at him, brows tight. "You tried," Naruto continued. "That counts. You didn't turn your back on her, even after everything. That matters more than whether she forgave you." Ladybug didn't answer right away. But the tightness in her shoulders loosened slightly. "Thanks," she said quietly. Naruto gave her a half smile. "Next time, maybe she won't just walk away. But for now, you did everything you could." She nodded, just once, then looked out at the rooftops of Paris, her eyes steady again. "We should head back. Someone has some friends with a certain surprise for you." That got a chuckle out of Naruto, and a confused look from Cat Noir. That's it for today. I hope you liked the video. Please like and subscribe, and comment ideas if you can, and maybe you could share this with your friends, because you never know, they might like what ifs too. So without further ado, all KAGE, out.